Gentlemen, welcome to Decapitation Hall. Whoa! I can see right now they're trying to kill tall, good-looking bikers. This is the first of a series, we hope, of stand-up comedy night at Berkey Hall. And your featured performance is the lovely dimpled darling of the comedy team, Chopper Charlie and Sidecar, known as Diane. And I am the warm-up act. I'm Chopper Charlie. Actually, I'm the only one of the stand-up team, comedy team of Chopper and Sidecar that actually can stand up.
Not always. Don't believe that. Not always.
Now, those of you that are here, I'm going to share a secret with you that everybody in the world in this RV park is going to be regretful they did not show up tonight. How many people here are familiar with Albert Einstein's theory of relativity? Everybody's heard of it. We all know that until just the recent advent of computers and some of the more advanced scientists, there were only about 9 people in the entire world that understood Einstein's theory of relativity. So I'm going to explain to you in very simple terms so that every one of you out here will know and understand Einstein's theory of relativity. So that's going to put you in about the top 1/10 of 1% of the smartest people in the entire world. Now here's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. If you're driving down the road and you look over at a motel and there's a man and a woman going into that motel room, that's irrelevant. But Einstein says, if you were driving down the road and you see a man walking in that motel room with your wife, that's relative. So that's Einstein's theory of relativity. It's all relative. So now when people say, you know everybody understands Einstein's relativity? Yes, I do. Chopper Charlie explained it to me. Another thing, I've always been a fan of Albert Einstein's ever since I was a little kid. His second wife was named Elsa. I don't know if all of you are familiar with this or not, but she was actually his second cousin. And the reason I was so fascinated about it is Elsa was heavily endowed with a nice set of Hooters. And those of you that know Chopper Charlie know that my number one thing is Hooters. So Albert Einstein one time told a reporter, they asked him about her being a relative and being so well endowed. And Einstein explained it like this. He said he felt that having a woman with very large Hooters was a very loving and warming comfort, and that the fact that they were blood relatives made it even more exciting. So that was his second theory of relativities. I can't say relativity. Well, it's easy for you to say relative titties. That's it, not relativity. Relative titties. I need a drink of water. You know, I can walk around the park, and a lot of people in the park got dogs. Most of them got some dogs with some pretty common names, pretty neat names. The craziest name that I ever heard for a dog that I always will remember the rest of my life is I met a lady down in South Carolina, and she had this little dog. It was a Jack Russell. And I said, that's a nice dog. I said, what's that dog's name? She said, Diogi. I said, Diogi? Well, they were Puerto Ricans. I thought, Diogi, that must be some kind of a damn Puerto Rican name or something. I looked at that dog and I said, what does Diogi mean? She said, D-O-G. D-O-G. Diogi. I had a dog at one time, and I renamed my dog Cat. I had a neighbor lady that was a pain in the ass. Every time that dog would bark, now my dog didn't bark a lot, but I tell you what, I call them sky rats. Seagulls is what you know them as. I call them sky rats. They are a pain in the ass. They would get down and tease my dog. They would get my dog away from the food, and then they would dive in on the food, and then when my dog went back, they'd run my dog back and forth. My dog would bark. See, I told you. So she would call up, raising hell. So I changed my dog's name to Cat. So when Rosa would call me up, and she'd say, Chopper, your dog's barking. I said, Rosa, what are you talking about? My cat's barking in the backyard? So she called the city up and complained. So the city called me out and said, your neighbor, Lady Rosa, said your dog's barking. I said, you mean my cat? They said, cat? And I said, yeah. She said, cat was barking. They go, cat? And I said, yeah, that's what I got tied up in the backyard, cat. So they never bothered me no more. So you got trouble with a neighbor about your dog, rename it Cat. I had a cowboy, had a small ranch. He went into town one day and he needed a few supplies. So he got himself a bucket and an anvil, and he walked over to the feed store. And while he was over at the feed store, he saw a couple chickens and a goose. He thought, I'll just go give me a couple chickens and a goose. But now he's got a problem. He's got a bucket and an anvil. He just bought 2 chickens. He's got a goose. He didn't know how he was going to carry everything he bought. The guy at the livestock store said, well, why don't you put the anvil in the bucket, carry it in one hand, put a chicken under each arm, and put the goose in your other hand. Cowboy said, hey, that's pretty smart. I'll just do that. So he puts the anvil in the bucket, puts the chicken under each arm, puts the goose in the other hand. He's walking down the street. He runs into this good-looking young lady, and she says, excuse me, sir, do you know where 1515 Mockingbird Lane is? He goes, lady, this is your lucky day. My brother lives at 1518 Mockingbird, and I'm on my way there now. As a matter of fact, I'll just take you there. Let's cut down this alley. We'll just cut off about half the time. She goes, oh, I don't know about that. He said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, how do I know when you get me in that alley, you're not going to rip my jeans off, bend me over a barrel, and have your way with me? He said, look at me. I got a bucket and an anvil, 2 chickens and a damn goose. How am I going to do that? She said, easy, silly boy. You put the goose down, put the bucket on the goose, put the anvil on top of the bucket. I'll hold those 2 chickens while you have your way with me. I know y'all got grandkids, and sometimes they do the most precious things, and some of them are really argumentative. My oldest granddaughter has been argumentative since she was that high. She don't know when to shut up. So one time she was arguing with her mom. She never shut up until she lost all her privileges for life. So I said to her one time, I said, Jordan, why don't you shut up now before your mom takes all your privileges away and you can't even go outside and ride your bicycle? She said, well, Papa, if she just shut up and listened to me, we wouldn't be having these arguments.
It's in the genes.
Yeah, it's in the genes. A couple years ago, we had the hottest summer in North Texas we'd had in a long time. It was in the 110s. So I was up visiting, and we went to Lake Sam Rayburn to do a little swimming, and we were at the beach. Come about dark time, just about time dusk. That's dark for y'all damn Yankees. So about dusk, we decided we're going to cut across country, go to ice cream store, and get ice cream. So we're cutting across the country road. My son-in-law's driving, and we pull up behind this big red convertible with a bunch of what I call young people, the 20-something crazy crowd. And this young girl stands up in the back of this red convertible, stark buck naked. She ain't got nothing on except possibly tennis shoes, and I couldn't see them. And she turns around, looks at our car, and waves. And my little granddaughter, about 7 years old, I thought, oh shit, we're going to get the morality speech now. She looked at that and she said, Papa, do you see that? That lady don't have no seatbelt on. My second granddaughter, she's a smart little gal. She's always inquisitive. So last year at Christmas, my daughter said to me, she said, Dad, we're going to be delivering meals to shut-ins for the church, and I have committed to doing 12 meals. So if you'll help me and take our little, because I rode my motorcycle up there, if you'll take our other car and you and Sydney deliver 6, Jordan and I'll deliver 6, we'll get done pretty fast. We get back home and do our Christmas Eve meal. I said, okay, I'm willing to do that. And the town they live in is not all that big anyway, so I figure I can follow directions, I can get there. So we go to the first house, and the person there's got one of them canes with about 5 feet on it. So little Sydney, she's looking around, she's very curious, she's looking at that, and then she's looking at the wheelchair. We get outside, she's asked me a whole bunch of questions. Why do we have 5 feet, and how's the wheelchair work, and all that crap. So it's going pretty good, a little touch and go when we went to this one house, and we had adult diapers and bedpans. We get to the last house, and there's this older gentleman sitting at the kitchen table, and in the middle of the table, he's got a glass of water, and you know what's in it? His teeth. And I'm going, oh Lord, this is going to be good. So we get his meal out, we unwrap it, we set it down, we wish him Merry Christmas, and we get ready to leave, and we walk out the door, and Sydney looked at me and she said, oh Papa, the tooth fairy ain't going to believe this one. The same little girl, when she was in about the 2nd grade, I was visiting her, I think it was in the spring of the year, probably possibly Easter time, and she come home from school one night and she said, Papa, we learned how to make babies today in school. I'm going, holy shit, 2nd grade? Hey, not on my watch. I'm going to school tomorrow. I'm going to be kicking somebody's ass. 2nd grade girls learning about babies? So I'm trying to keep my cool now. I don't want to get real pissed off here with my little granddaughter. So finally I said, okay, Sydney, just how do you make babies? She said, it's easy, Grandpa. You drop the Y and add IES. You know, sometimes I think it's a miracle I got grandkids at all. I did probably a disservice or a service to my or to my daughters when they were young. I always demanded when they met a young man, before they could go on the first date, they had to come to my house and meet me and pick the girls up. Now here's what I would do. I'm now about 6'3", but back then I was 6'4". I would put on my muscle shirt, which most of you know me, probably the first time you ever seen me in a shirt was, I call them long-legged shirts. I always wear muscle shirts. I would put on my cowboy boots with 2-inch heels. I would stand up on my porch, which had a 10-inch step. I'd look down on them and I'd say, boy, don't you hurt my daughter. Don't you bring her home late. Don't you make her cry, because if you do, I ain't afraid of going back to prison. Most of them little boys run like hell. My oldest daughter finally found her a man that had enough guts to date her when she was 29. My middle daughter finally met a man when she was about 22. My youngest daughter just turned 22. She ain't even been on a damn date yet. Now here's what happened to Megan. Megan's almost first date, young man said, going to take her out. He withstood the test. He picked her up. They went to CC's Pizza. Some buddy of mine by the name of Chainsaw and a biker gang that he rode with called Death Riders were in full colors, and Chainsaw's about 6'8", 320 pounds, and got a big patch over his eye and a scar right down through here. Scary looking man. He sees Megan walk in, they're eating in CC's Pizza when Megan walks in with this young man. So Chainsaw gets on the phone and said, Chopper, did I just see Megan walk into CC's? I said, yeah, you might have, Chainsaw. Why? Well, I just wondering, looks like she's with some guy. I said, yeah, she's on her first date. Chainsaw said, well, you want me to go check on her and make sure she's all right? And I said, well, sure, Chainsaw, if you want to. So he walks over to the table, leans over at the table. He looks at Megan. He said, hi, Megan, you doing all right? Megan said, well, hi, Chainsaw. Did my daddy send you? He goes, yeah. He pulls that bad eye patch down, showing his bad eye, looked at that young boy and said, we be watching you, boy. He brought her home without taking her to the movies, and she ain't been on a damn date since, and it's been 2 years. So I don't think a poor little Megan's ever going to find a man to date her. We were camping one night, the little blonde night. We were in the mountains of the Carolinas. Beautiful, beautiful, clear night. Warm temperature, probably in the low 80s, high 70s. And about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, she nudged me. She said, Chopper, wake up. I said, what? She said, look up and tell me what you see. I looked up and I said, oh, wow. Well, I said, I see the Big Dipper, and I see constellation over here tells me that's due east, and moon back over here. And I said, what you see? She said, is that all you noticed? And I go, yeah. She said, Chopper, somebody stole our damn tent. I was sitting in a bar a couple weeks ago, right down here. What's the name of that bar on the access road up here we used to go to do karaoke?
Barton Street.
Huh?
Barton Street.
Yeah, the Barton Street Bar. I was up there at the Barton Street Bar, and there was an older woman with a young guy. And the barmaid said to me, she said, oh, look at that crap. She said, that old lady over there kissing on him and hugging him and rubbing his arm. I said, well, don't you know what they call those old women that date young men and pick them up at bars? And she goes, no. I said, they're called cougars. Oh, yeah. She said, I guess I heard that. And she looked thought a little bit. And she said, well, tell me, Chopper, what do they call old men that pick up young women in bars? I said, think about it a minute. Damn lucky. Okay, Diane, are you getting about ready, or you want to do one more? I got a question, guys. Have you ever told your woman you love her when she ain't naked? Because if you did, that's true love. And I'm going to tell you this much. When you're all done making love, if the sheets are still on that damn bed, I am here to tell you, y'all did not do it right.